And hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Break on Unsafe Space. Today is someday, still in March. What is it? The 29th. It's Monday, March 29th. We are broadcasting from the Clips channel because, I should say, Keri's here. Hi, Keri.
Hi.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm sharing the link.
I was just going to start talking to you, but I realized you weren't on the screen next to me, so that wouldn't have worked very well. We are on our Clips channel because we continue to be in YouTube jail for... we had someone on the show who questioned WHO's narrative about a certain viral phenomenon sweeping the world. And questioning the narrative is wrong think. It's crime think. You're not allowed to do that. So we humbly beg for Susan's forgiveness, and we'll be back on Friday. In the meantime,
do we beg for forgiveness?
As Keri would say, that was sarcasm. But we will be back on Friday on our main channel. Right now, we're just sidestepping her little censorship, efforts. So,
yeah.
Let's see. What do we have? Oh, stuff to announce. The retreat is kind of filling up. If you want a room, I think we might be out of couples rooms, but I'm not sure. I think we're out of couples rooms actually, but I'm not 100% sure. And for individuals, I think we still have a few things left. I have to go through this week, and we've probably hit our threshold for that it's going to happen, but I don't want to announce it, but I'm pretty sure we've hit that. So the response has been overwhelmingly positive. So we're looking forward to seeing all of you guys in August. But if you are interested, at least, go to the website anyway and see if you can and do something. If you're interested, do it soon. Let's see what else.
By the way, that's news to me. That's awesome. I haven't.
Yeah, it just happened. We had someone try and book a room and they couldn't. And it was because I had to set up, when I set up the PayPal button, I had to have an inventory. And it stopped selling when we hit the inventory. Wow. I'm going to go back to see if I put in, I might have put in a tiny bit of wiggle room just to make sure so that we didn't oversell, but I'm going to go look. Anyway, we'll probably see everyone in August. I think it's
at the retreat,
pretty in the bag at this point.
And we'll be figuring out and announcing, the schedules of the day's events on Saturday pretty soon.
Yeah. We haven't even told people what the events are. They'll be awesome. And we have promised at least Dungeons and Dragons because someone has asked for it. And I want it. Someone else asked for it. And Beverly, I'm pretty sure, is going to play Dungeons and Dragons all by herself, even if no one else joins. So that will happen at least somewhere in a corner of the retreat. But I know a lot of people, that's not what they want. They want something else.
I don't.
Something else.
I'll be doing something else. So we had book club yesterday. Thank you guys who showed up. We read and discussed The Fourth Turning by William Strauss and Neil Howe. And if you want to watch the discussion, and we had some new people who were in it this time as well, and some longtime book clubbers. That's on the Clips channel currently as well until we get back into our regular channel. But thank you guys for showing up. The next book that we're reading, we usually alternate between fiction and nonfiction. The next book we're reading is Douglas Adams. What is it? The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yep. I haven't read it before. I know several of you have read it many times, but I'm excited to finally read this book.
Someone tried to describe it in a disparaging way as a Monty Python script. And I was like, how is that disparaging? That's a great description of the book. It's just kind of like reading a Monty Python script. And I was like, that sounds awesome.
Fun.
Great advertisement for the book. So
how fun. Yeah. We are the
so it is kind of like that, I guess.
Yeah.
So what was I going to say? Oh, wait. One more thing. Library. We do try and put, I might be like one or two videos behind, and if I am, I apologize, but because they used to be auto-ingested from our old YouTube, so I might have to manually do some stuff. But everything goes on Library, including the uncensored version. So the episode of The Great Reset that YouTube censored, the uncensored version is available. You can go watch it on Library. Library is also what you might see people starting to use the word Odyssey. And so they'll say, are you on Odyssey? Odyssey is a rebranding of the front end of library. So when I say library, I mean Odyssey as well. If you want to go watch videos there, we try and make sure they're all there. Like I said, I might be behind by a couple, and if I am, I'll fix that today. But they're on library, and they'll always be on library. The library is very supportive of free speech. And it's blockchain, so they can't really take it down even if they wanted to. So there you go.
So, what's happening in the world?
Sorry, I felt like I was interrupting you on the way to something, so I just shut up and let you do your thing. But maybe
I have some things I want to talk about with you and just get your take on it, especially your take as an atheist. I would like to have your atheist opinion. I just sent you an image.
There's a lot going on in the world, so
yeah.
Okay.
So I have recently, I'm sending you one other image as well. I've recently had the opportunity to spend one day a week. I won't get into specifics, but one day a week, I get to listen to popular music.
Hold on. Is this a self-imposed weird Christian thing you're doing now?
No, this is by virtue of one of the gigs I'm working now. I get to listen to a lot of...
you get to listen to live music. Okay.
Right, a lot of popular music. No, it's not live. And I'm a person who likes a lot of different music. When people ask, like, what kind of music do you like? I sometimes have a hard time answering that question because I like all different kinds of music. I like old country, Patsy Cline, obviously Johnny Cash. I like old blues. I really love Bessie Smith. I love Nina Simone. I like a lot of old 20s and 30s music. I like the big band decade stuff.
Keely Smith is one of my favorite singers who's underrated from that era. I loved Keely Smith.
Oh, I don't even know that singer.
She did a lot of stuff with Louis Prima.
Okay.
That music's awesome. I agree with you.
All of this. I love pretty much all decades of music. I like rap, some rap, depending on the rap. I like some metal, bluegrass. But I'm starting to think, is this now that we read the Fourth Turning, I'm thinking about generations, right? I'm passing now into the middle age, period, right? And I know this is going to sound like an old person, because don't old people always say young people's music today is just not real music, right? But the music that is coming out today,
that since I was 18.
the popular music that's being pushed on us today is derivative. It sounds like it's produced by an algorithm, like somebody puts a quarter in a machine and then they drop out a song that's programmed to be a hit. It's a lot of times the music itself, I think, is terrible, but then you add to it the lyrics, which have no meaning, no truth. They're all about hedonism, nihilism, emptiness, using drugs, having meaningless sex. I just find it really kind of off-putting. I don't know why so many people listen to this stuff and ingest this stuff. And it's being pushed on us from the top down. So I just sent you this image because I think that this is a good illustration of the current culture war we find ourselves in, as manifested in the realm of music. So Tom MacDonald, who I love, independent rapper, he put out a song a few days ago. Everybody was telling me to watch it. I finally watched it. It's called Church. And whether you like the aesthetics of the music, the kind of music he's doing, or whether you like the video or not, I think that you can agree that there's meaning to it. This is a song about fighting addiction, fighting your demons. And yes, he does make overt references to God and to the Bible and to church as a solution, as a possible solution out of that darkness. But it's a song about something meaningful. And if you go to that YouTube video and you look through the comments, there's thousands of comments from people who are thanking him for giving them something they can relate to as they've struggled with addiction or struggled with sobriety. There's people in there posting their sobriety stories. It's very moving. And so this song, Church, is from, again, Tom MacDonald, a rapper who is denigrated by the establishment, by the powers that be. He's called all kinds of names. They try and make him off limits so that you won't check him out. I've actually mentioned him to people who were in the machine, who get all their news from the cathedral, and they're like, oh, isn't he a white supremacist? It's like, no, he's not a white supremacist. But that's a great way of keeping you from ever listening to him, right? They call him all kinds of names. He makes all of his own music. He records his own videos. His girlfriend, who's also an independent rapper, makes all the videos. He builds his own sets. He's a handyman. And he puts this out, and he's got this growing fan base who have found him despite all the odds, despite the establishment being turned against him. There's no puff pieces about him from legacy media, right? And then on the other hand, there's this other new song that just came out. This is by a popular rapper who's being pushed on us by the establishment. He gets awards. There's lots of puff pieces about him. We're being told this is empowering. He's empowering. His song, this is Lil Nas X. His song is called it's his name. Is it Moderna? What is it?
Put it up?
Yeah, put it up.
Okay. It's
Montero. Montero is his real name. So in the song Montero, it's literally a song about nothing if you look at the lyrics, but more specifically, it's about hedonism. It's about nihilism. It's about narcissism. It's about meaningless sex, meaningless drugs. He talks about cocaine and and marijuana and all the sexual acts that he's performing for Satan. And in the video, you actually watch him drop down from heaven on a pole and then give a really provocative lap dance, sexual dance to Satan. and then he goes around behind Satan and takes his horns off and then puts them on his own head and becomes some sort of satanic demon. And this song, we're being told, is empowering. He's very brave. He's very brave for putting this out. Stunning and brave, yes.
He's stunning and brave.
And if you look at these two songs, this graphic, for anybody who's just listening and not watching, there's a graphic here that it shows a still image from Tom MacDonald's Church, and it says Church by Tom MacDonald, which is a song about asking God for strength to fight addictions. 1.4 million views. This was from a few days ago. It's over 2 million views now. And then there's a still image from the video by Lil Nas X, Montero, song about nothing. Literally gives Satan a lap dance in the video. 15 million views. And then this is, again, it's over 20 something million now. But one of these is being pushed on us by the establishment and sold to us as something positive, as empowerment. And the other one is being denigrated, and we're being told not to watch that kind of music, and there's something wrong with Tom MacDonald. And I just thought this is a perfect illustration of the upside down world we're in, and how we're being sold death by the powers that be. They want us to buy songs and consume poison that glorifies drug addiction, that glorifies meaningless sex, that glorifies nihilism and meaninglessness. And we're being told this is the positive stuff to listen to. So I know I have some atheist friends who disagree that this is important. Oh, here's the other thing. To promote his song, Lil Nas is doing a limited edition of Nike sneakers. I sent you an image about this too.
Oh, is that the same guy?
Yeah, that's the same guy. And these Nike sneakers, he's calling Satan shoes, and they each contain human blood. So they have pentagrams on them, and you're promised that your special edition, limited edition Satan sneaker will come with human blood. You can be guaranteed.
Well,
so
very important. If you're buying if you're going to buy Satan sneakers,
yeah,
you can't skimp on the blood. Let's be honest.
Can't skip on the blood. So, and just to be clear, Nike has said they did not partner with him for this, but they did allow him. He bought a bunch of Nike sneakers, and he partnered with a company called Mischief, and they're the ones putting out this limited edition Satan sneaker.
Nike promises it's not from the Uyghurs.
It's not from the Uyghurs. That sneaker may have already contained human blood before the Mischief employees added their own. But I just wanted to get your thoughts as an atheist on what you think about this.
Wow. The hard-hitting questions. Well, let me play devil's advocate. No, I won't play devil's advocate for him. I will start out by saying I too don't like the meaninglessness of a lot of modern music, and actually my archetype for that has been Katy Perry.
Yes.
Maybe because I'm a little older or whatever, I don't know. But like Katy Perry is the archetype I think of as like meaningless, stupid lyrics, completely manufactured pop garbage pushed on people. That said, when the bands we were just talking about, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, they were derided as meaningless, frivolous, stupid music that the dumb kids danced to. So,
Elvis.
Yeah, like, just to be clear, those, like, big band music doesn't have a lot of profound lyrics, let's be honest, right? There's not a lot of profundity in that. So, I don't think that there's anything inherently. I don't have a problem with music that's intended to just be fun and frivolous.
Frivolous.
Yeah. I think that's okay sometimes. I can't take too much of it. I think personally, I think what separates Katy Perry from some of the big band stuff is not the frivolity, but the kind of boring, uncreative, manufactured.
Yes,
like
I agree.
Music designed by committee music, right?
I agree.
Sounds like crap, right? So, you can be frivolous and enjoyable, or you can be frivolous and Katy Perry, and those are different to me.
Yes, I agree.
So that's just like my music generally. Now, with respect to this Satanism crap, I will say as an atheist, back when the most important thing in the world was fighting Christians, there were some atheists who would invoke Satan in a playful manner, not seriously, and not like this, but just like would joke about like, oh, I'm from the Church of Satan, ha ha ha. Like they would just like make jokes about it to poke fun at Christianity because they don't believe any of it, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like, haha, this is your boogeyman, I'm gonna mock him.
Right.
And I also think there's a distinction between that and the kind of people who, well, so if you're an atheist like me, you look at religion and say, okay, well, there's a myth here. I don't believe it. There's the good figure who I think has some problems, but lots of good stuff, and the bad figure who I think is mostly bad stuff, and right? Okay, I generally agree with the archetypes that have been set up. Still think it's a myth. And if I really want to take down the religion, I could see myself mocking both sides actually, and being like, haha, whatever. Fine. That's an atheist position. There's something distinctly different with someone who looks at that and says, I like the bad character, and I'm going to actually embrace all of the things that the bad character in this religion has, and I'm going to push that. And I don't think this is an attempt to do anything other than, well, how do I say this? I don't think people like this Lil Nas X, is that his name, Lil Nas X? Yes. I don't think Lil Nas X starts out with, I'm a Satanist, I want to promote Satanism. I think he starts out with, I'm a hedonist nihilist, what represents that in culture? Satan. I'm going to use the Satan. Like if we lived in ancient Egypt, this would be a video about Set, and he would be lap dances to Set, and like that would be the thing, because like, hey, we all need to be hedonistic and actually nihilistic is a better term, right?
Yeah,
so
no.
I think it's just a manifestation of the nihilism that you see everywhere in culture, and I think I don't think it's new. I think it's been more on like this really intense beat you over the head with nihilism has been a little bit more on the fringes. But it's been there for quite a few decades, and it's kind of like the purity spiral thing. The more they do it, the more, or like postmodernism, the more ridiculous their critiques get, the more ridiculous you have to critique in order to be noticed. And so, like, a little bit of nihilism in the 80s and some
Yeah.
like, ooh, they wore devil horns in a video for 2 seconds while they're ooh, or whatever, or Kiss looks pretty weird, or, you know, whatever. That changes, like eventually that just becomes banal and blasé and everyone gets used to it. And so you got to up the ante to prove your nihilism. And so he's just upping the ante. Now he's, you know, the problem is someone's going to look at this and be like, oh, what can I do that's worse than blood and sneakers and worse than lap dancing the devil? Like someone will think of something
Someone
worse.
will think of something. That is the I believe that's obvious. I think that's one of the dangers of nihilism and hedonism is that you have to keep, it's a continual, it's like Augustine writes about in Confessions. It's this continual search for something and I actually think it's because there is no meaning. They're searching for meaning in nothing and continually trying to be more obscene or to push the envelope further until you get into a really dark place and you still don't arrive. You never arrive at that place of ultimate depravity. You know, you're going to keep going and going. There's always worse.
Yeah. No, there's always someone who is more sick than you are, willing to do more sick things.
There's another video that I saw recently, and forgive me, I didn't prepare. I just remembered it. But I saw this one a few weeks ago, and it's a very popular rapper. Maybe somebody in the chat knows it. And in the video, he gives birth to a baby in a hospital. The man does.
He gives birth to a baby. Okay.
Gives birth to a baby, and then they proceed to cut the baby up and eat it. They make a cake that looks like the baby.
So it's a Podesta party.
Yeah. And again, what are they selling us with that? It's like, and I just bring that up as an example of something I've seen.
Outrage. Yeah. Well, they're selling. Actually, I think what it's the same reason that in those movies they tape people's eyes open and make them watch horrific images to torture them. What they're selling is eradication of boundaries. What they're trying to do is eradicate your morality, because they're trying to inure you to horror, because they don't want you to have standards. It's the way to break standards is the way to inure a population to not care. Like, to numb people to violence, you just show them a lot of violence. To numb people to immorality, you just show them a lot of immorality. And like eventually it's like, oh yeah, there's another. I mean, eventually, if society keeps going this direction, right? Eventually people will be like, yeah, there's another video where they eat a baby. Like,
yeah.
That'll be thing. Hey, what kind of blood do you have in your sneakers? Like, that'll just be a thing, right?
It was like, been there, done that. All he did in this video was eat a baby. Let's,
yeah. Like, oh, he just ate it. Oh, I've seen that. Right. Like, okay. So I just as an atheist, I want to point this out because I don't know. I think it's important. Hedonism is one of the most anti-human perspectives I can think about. What makes you a human is your rational mind. That's what separates you from animals. I mean, your primary tool of survival is your rational reasoning mind. Just look around you, right? You don't have claws, you don't have thick skin, you're not super fast, you can't survive in extreme temperatures, you don't fly. Like, your tool of survival, the thing that you evolved to survive, is your rational mind. It allows you to shape the world around you, to build a little lean-to and light a fire and like make the environment around you something that's hospitable. Otherwise you die. Like that's what humans are. That's your primary means of survival. It's your functioning rational mind. And that mind, what you do to survive is you plan long term. You plant the crops now and don't eat all your seed crop so that you don't have nothing to plant in the spring. Like you plan for the winter. All of that is part of human survival. That's part of using your rational mind. And hedonism is the rejection of long-term planning. Hedonism is the rejection of the fact that there will be a tomorrow. And that is to reduce yourself to the level of a beast in a jungle who is not planning for tomorrow, who's just sees fruit or sees another beast and goes and eats it, or sees another beast of the same kind and goes and has sex with it. Like, that's it. That's what animals do. And animals do it because they don't long-term plan. And if you like the way to be anti-human, one of the most anti-human things you can do is to embrace a philosophy that eschews long-term planning, because that's what your brain's for. That's your means of survival. And so I think one of the reasons they push hedonism is they don't want you long-term planning, because if you start thinking long-term, and if you start using your mind, and if you actually think in terms of long-term planning and using reason, you will notice that what their plans are destructive for you, and they don't want you to see the results of their plan. You might start asking, hey, long-term, I mean, I know Marxism sounds great now, but once we're done smashing the Starbucks, then what? They don't want you to think about then what. They don't want you to think about after that. Hey, what happens if we turn this into a Marxist utopia? Because then you'll go, oh, maybe that won't go.
What comes next? Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, what happens after we give power to this person to do X, Y, and Z? Oh, then we have a person that has power to do X, Y, and Z, and like, oh, gee, maybe we shouldn't cede power to this person. Like, they don't want you thinking long term, because they have plans to cheat you and destroy you, and they've got to get away with it, and they can't get away with it if you're paying attention. So they need you to not pay attention. Go take your drugs. Go focus on the moment. Go, fire up Tinder and Bumble. Snort as much stuff as you want and inject as much as you want. Go watch your Netflix and Amazon, and stop asking questions about the long term. Stop anyone like Tom MacDonald who's saying, hey, maybe get your shit together and plan for the future and make healthy lifestyle choices, and maybe think a little bit long term. Yeah. Maybe kick those habits that are hedonistic and short term habits. Don't do that. They don't want you to do that.
I wanted to read a super chat from Adam Coleman first, and then I wanted to say something else. Adam Coleman says, I think most of these artists don't come up with their own concepts. Lil Nas X likely agreed to the concept instead of creating it. Yeah, I totally agree. That's why I say it's coming just like Katy Perry. It's music by committee. It's being pushed on us by the establishment. Yeah, these artists are tools. They're just tools for pushing it. And then Adam also says, I'm also not sure if you saw my super chat Friday, but I'm sending you 2 copies of my book. Thank you very much. Yeah, Adam's book is out, and you guys can buy it.
What's it called?
It's From Victim to Victor, I think is the title. I need to look it up again.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah,
I can.
And those of you who are in the
victory. No, that's someone else. Sorry.
Adam, for those of you who don't know Adam, he's in our Unsafe Space book club group on Facebook. And here it is. It's called From Black Victim to Black Victor.
Oh, from Black Victim to
Black Victor. By Adam Coleman.
Black Victor. All right. Well, I don't see it on Jeff Bezos' site, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's probably not on Jeff's site for a very good reason. And probably I shouldn't be looking there anyway.
It is there, I think. But that's okay.
That's right. We don't have to watch me fail to do a Google search like a boomer. So,
so one of the other things I wanted to mention was a lot of the old blues music that I love. They had a lot of open sexual innuendo. But I find that different from the popular music I've been exposed to recently for a couple of reasons. One is because the musicianship, the artistry is there. It's not like this sort of synthesized, algorithm generated, music of today. I mean, it's not, I can't even compare it. They're playing actual instruments, first of all. It's just different artistry, right? They're singing, they're not auto-tuned. It's completely different experiencing it. But the other reason I think it's different is because it's clever. The innuendo is clever. They're talking
there's
about.
definitely been a dumbing down of the music, so even the frivolity is dumber, right?
Yes. But they're saying stuff about, I was looking up some of the lyrics and I can't find the one I was looking for right now. But, they're talking about, okay, here's one. He shakes my ashes, greases my griddle, churns my butter, strokes my fiddle. My man is such a handy man. Like, that's innuendo. That's playful. That's funny. That's frivolous. And it takes a bit, it's clever. It's not like the stuff I've been listening to recently that I've been exposed to and have to listen to. The lyrics literally, Carter, I know I sound like an old lady because I don't recognize half of these artists that I'm hearing now. And the lyrics are like completely explicit. There's no innuendo and it's so boring. It's like, put your blank in my blank and then let me do this to your blank and then I'll do this to that your blank and you do this to my blank and then blankety blank in the blank blank. It's so stupid.
Right. Isn't that what's her name have some song like that? I don't know. That got up Cardi B. Didn't she have some song like that?
She's got one right now called WAP and my blank is so blank and my blank is so blank and you la 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 do this to my blank. Who cares? Be clever.
Well, so this is the interesting thing about creativity. Some constraints make creativity easier, and the lack of all constraints make creativity actually quite difficult.
Yes.
So if you want to write a creative short story, it's easier for someone to give you a prompt and to say, like, here's the constraints. It has to be about an old person living in Brooklyn set in 2024, and, like, we've had contacts with aliens. Go. Like, you could come up with a story, but when it's just a blank page, it's like, I don't know where to start. Anything goes. And I think creativity is much harder when anything goes. And so what you're experiencing, as I think in the past, there were, if not legal constraints, certainly massive societal constraints about, like, we're not playing this on the radio. We're not going to, like, you can't, we won't press an album that says this. Like, you've got to be, if you want to talk about sex, you better use a lot of innuendo and because you can't do what Cardi B does. Like, we won't let you do that. Yeah. So it forces creativity.
And this goes back to the postmodern art discussion that we've touched on before, is when you remove all boundaries and anything is considered art, you're less creative. Because then you can just splatter paint on a canvas and, like, look at my masterpiece, or tear the stuffing out of a stuffed animal and put it on a pedestal and say, look at my art. That's crap.
Jackson Pollock literally has, like, bits of sandwiches and cigarette ash from his squatting over paintings, slurping paint around. Like, what a useless person.
It's such crap.
And he's revered. Crap. He's revered.
Yeah. I don't have any, and I know we've gotten pushback on this before, but I'm sorry. I just don't have any respect for it. I used to be one of those people who go to the art museum and look at the postmodern stuff like, oh, I guess I'm just not smart enough to get it. But no, it's a lot like...
No, the emperor doesn't have clothes, Keri.
The emperor does not have clothes. And it's a lot like the veneer of intellectualism that they try to slap on racist ideologies like social justice. And so that when a normie comes into contact with it, they're like, oh, I guess I just don't get it yet. It's like, no, you get it. Right. It's racist. It's racism. Right. They're just selling it with this pseudo intellectual jargon. But anyway, this is a good plug. If you're in the Austin area, April 15th, I'm going to be on leading a discussion with my preacher in Georgetown, Texas. And it's a film screening. We're going to be doing a film series. And we're watching the documentary Why Beauty Matters. And then we'll be doing a discussion afterwards. It's free to come. So if you want info, check out the Church on the Square in Georgetown, Texas online. Anyway. But we're going to be talking about all these things.
You're going to get yourself doxxed.
Yeah, well, I'm moving, so.
Hey, I mean, we're a small channel, but,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And by the way, I actually think it's fine to have, if you want to have looser standards for things, that's fine. But you've got to give yourself some boundaries as a creator. Otherwise it gets like, it's that postmodern, just how ridiculous can I be?
Yeah.
And that's not interesting to anyone. Like, it's not, I don't know. It's not interesting to just be like, I thought of the most ridiculous thing. Like, okay, like that's not, do something clever. Like, hey, I set up these constraints for myself, and here's how I weaved in and out of them to tell my story. Like, okay, that can be interesting. But like, yeah, it's Jackson Pollock is the analogy that I use just for everything, because it's just like, you're throwing notes on a page, basically. You're like just throwing some paint on it. It's like, you know. And nowadays it's like, I swear there's probably just random music generation functions in Ableton. I don't know. I haven't played with Ableton, but like in some of the software, it's like, you know, random. Here's some things that, you know, just they do it with color. They know what complementary colors are. There's some science to music. Probably just produce some crap and like,
look up music.
You sing these banal lyrics and we'll auto-tune them to fit in with this crap, and
yes,
done.
There are, look up, this is very interesting reading if you guys are interested in this stuff. Look up music composition and algorithms, and you'll find a lot of interesting articles about the algorithms that predict how to make a hit pop song.
I was just guessing that existed, but it does, is what you're telling me. It does,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's why it all sounds the same. It's just derivative. Right. You know? And
it's better for them if you have a population of people who don't think independently and all have the same ideas and ideology, because then you can make one piece of music that appeals to a wider audience. If you have an actually intellectually diverse group of people, then some people aren't going to like the thing you did, and you're going to someone's going to do something else. It's more efficient if we all just love Katy Perry. It's more efficient for them. Like, they do one artist, we all worship that artist, the end. It's much less efficient if they have to, you know, there's a bunch of little Tom MacDonalds out there. No one wants that.
Yeah.
I mean, no one, in quotes.
I think we should do a parody of popular music where we just take one of these songs and just replace all the words with blank.
I feel like popular music is a parody of itself.
You're blank, and do this to my blank.
When I listened to that, was it what WAP? What is it called? Whatever that song that Cardi B.
Wow.
I actually didn't listen to. I read the lyrics online. I read the lyrics and I was thinking to myself,
so terrible.
I couldn't write a parody of this genre better than she just wrote a parody of. It's like this. It's like we were talking about jumping the shark yesterday. It's like there's no jumping the shark, because no matter what they do, like no matter how outrageous you think it will be, like someone will do it and the rest of them will go, yeah, that makes sense. Great.
That's so empowering. Oh, it's so empowering. Yeah. Didn't she perform that at the one of those recent elite establishment award shows recently? They performed that song live. It's like, ooh, empowerment. 13-year-old girls, listen to WAP.
I was going to say, she's probably going to be on the Disney Channel doing infomercials.
Right.
If only we had more women like Cardi B.
The upside down.
But Tom MacDonald's the problem, everyone.
He's the problem.
Tom MacDonald is the problem.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for indulging me with this.
Yeah, sure.
I've been thinking about this a lot recently because of listening to all this music, and the other thing that strikes me is that the people who love this kind of stuff, they seem to like it. I'm trying to figure out what they like about it. I think that they like it from this childish desire to like it just because they think it's going to be offensive to others.
Because they haven't grown up. This is like people who love authoritarianism haven't grown up, because they view their parents as authority figures and they become adults looking for an authority figure. And so what happens is, like, they end up, when they can do little naughty things that are like, ooh, taboo, like taboo suddenly becomes very exciting. Like, ooh, look, I can do something offensive to the authority figure. But like, the authority figure is really not offended. It just feels offensive to like your imaginary authority figure. You're rebelling because you're still a teenager.
But here's what's crazy. It's not offensive to the establishment. The establishment is churning this out. You guys are
they have a fantasy of what the establishment is, and it's like Newt Gingrich, who actually isn't in the establishment anymore, but that's their fantasy of the establishment.
It's amazing though, but it's just like the quote unquote so-called resistance against Trump. You guys are not the resistance. Right. You're the status quo. This garbage WAP is That's the establishment garbage. It's like, if you want to, you know what's offensive? Tom MacDonald singing about sobriety and getting sober. Like that's what's offensive. You want to be a rebel, and you think you can be a rebel by listening to the latest manufactured, establishment sold, award-winning garbage of put your blank in my blank.
Right.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Okay.
Yeah. No, you know what?
Old person ran over.
Since we're on this topic, we might as well just shove all of the uncomfortable stuff to talk about in one show, I guess. You know, when it comes to sex and hedonism, I've actually seen two different types of psychological approaches. I mean, I'm just broadly categorizing, and I think actually one of them is more healthy, and you can actually pull that person in a better direction than the other one. And one is people who view sex as good, like a good, wholesome thing, but just are like indulging in it, and to them you just have to like have conversations about the value of being somewhat selective, and like the greater values of like, I understand you want goodness and pleasure, and that's nice. Let's talk about happiness versus pleasure. Let's talk like that. That's an approach that people come to. But there's a separate approach which I think is more disturbing to me, which is they think it's evil and dirty, and they want to revel in evil and dirtiness.
Yeah.
And that's a distinct. There's a distinct difference there. And when I see that picture of whatever that guy's name was, Nas X or whatever. Lil Nas X, right? When I see that picture of him lap dancing Satan, what I don't see, I don't look at that and see someone who's like, oh, I like this. I think this is good, and I want to promote it. What I see is, I know this is evil, and I want to wallow in the filth of it. And that is a much more damaged psychology to me.
Yeah. It's like eating feces. You know? It's like animals who
I can't
it's
believe
like
you just
animals
said that
who eat the sorry. I mean, it's that gross. It's that kind of.
I need to go brush my teeth now for saying that. What the hell?
No, it's like that kind of animalistic. Yeah. You know, I was just thinking of that because my housemate's dog has got this problem with trying to break and you can buy these things that help these supplements, vitamins that make it unappealing to them. But that's like an animal. I mean, like, I don't know, gotta eat my own poop. Like,
it is. I mean, it is something about reveling in something that that is like a fetish for people. Like they'll fetishize stuff that they think is bad, and they revel in the badness of it, which is different than people who, as much as I mocked the hippies from the 60s yesterday, it's different from the free love approach, which is like, I think it's great and we should all do it. Like, okay,
it is
you should put down the pot and we should have a conversation, but at least you're coming at this from a positive perspective, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Tax Terra says, for a Friday Covfefe break, do pop music and Mad Libs. It would be hilarious. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it would probably be pretty good. I'm glad that I'm not the only one who's like a little bit disturbed that you went that direction on.
Oh, sorry. But that's what it is. That's what it is. Or taking poison. How about that? It's like taking poison. But yeah.
You can't take it back, Keri. Well, let's talk about something else. Can we just change? Let's just change the topic.
Palate cleanser.
Yeah. What's happening in the world today? There was a ship in Suez Canal, which is gone. I don't care about that, but you know, that's news. Derek Chauvin trial is starting. That's news. NPR had some spokesperson for the family of George Floyd on Screaming today about how if George Floyd were a white guy, we wouldn't be saying this is a difficult trial. Apparently someone said this will be a difficult trial. And he was like, if George Floyd was a white guy, this wouldn't be a difficult trial. And I thought, he's correct, because we wouldn't be talking about it. It wouldn't be in the news at all if George Floyd was a white guy.
If George Floyd were a white guy, his name would be Tony Tempa, and nobody would know it. And nobody would know it.
Right. No one would know it.
Why don't you know the name Tony Tempa?
Good point. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this race narrative that's been going on.
Yeah.
And they did it with the Boulder shooting too. So there was the Atlanta shooting, right? Which, as we talked about extensively, wasn't about Asians, but they made it about Asians.
Yeah.
And they made it about a white guy killing Asians, and they made it all about anti-Asian violence. And that's all they could talk about. Well, this Boulder shooting, it was white people who were killed. I don't know if all of them, but
it was all white
people.
It was all white
a Syrian immigrant who killed them. And hey, not talking about that one at all. Hey, that motive is complex, and we may never find out the true motive of that.
Yeah.
You know, Keri, you have to give the police time to do their investigation and not jump to conclusions. We don't really know, and it would be irresponsible of NPR or CNN to jump to any conclusions about that shooter's motive, and we wouldn't really want to say anything about that. Hey, but the other guy, we're damn sure whatever he said his motive was completely wrong.
Not only that, but they've tried to recast him, even though he's an Arab, he's from Syria. They are calling him white. Did you see this?
Yes, I have seen them call him white, which I wouldn't care if we weren't talking about race so much. But since we're apparently having a war against white people, let's not call them white. How's that?
Many people in this woke cult, including journalists at some highly respected establishment media outlets, professors, members of government, many of them, before they had any of the facts, tweeted out, here's another white guy who just did a mass shooting in Colorado. Look at this white guy. It's the same thing every time. It's a white guy, white supremacy. And then when it came out that he's Arabic and from Syria, they doubled down.
I mean, Syria.
It's
like the exact country that a lot of this talk about immigration has been about, like Syrian immigrants and the Syrian crisis, like the exact thing. Zip their lips about it.
By the way, we just attacked Syria, and is anybody talking about that? We
don't care about that, Keri.
Biden,
because Biden's in charge.
Could that possibly be something to talk about? No.
If they treated it like they treated the Atlanta shooting, they would have said the mayor of Seattle within 2 hours would have been like, "This is retaliation for the Syrian bombing. That's what this is." That's what they would have said, and they would have talked about it. And instead, now we've got to defend our gun rights again. I don't know if you saw the Ninth Circuit, which, by the way, people don't get too excited about the Ninth Circuit because it's ours. It's the California West Coast. It's a bunch of loony bin crazy people. They get overturned all the time. But the Ninth Circuit, literally, they basically said the Second Amendment. Oh yeah, there's a Second Amendment, but it doesn't mean you have the right to keep or bear arms. I mean, literally. They're like, well, you don't have a right to actually have them or bear them.
Oh, what? Is this what? Right. Is this what you meant about they don't need the Constitution because they have the dictionary? Keep and bear.
I mean that.
Yeah. Like, what does keep and bear mean? It doesn't mean that you actually keep them in your house.
They were referring to grizzlies. You have a right to a bear's arms.
So silly.
They are. Yeah. They just. So I know everyone's going like crazy about it, and I think we should protest and push back. But it is the Ninth Circuit. They say this kind of crap constantly, and there's no. Man. I mean, this is why I don't This is why I don't care about politics as much. If you've got a culture that's really bad, it doesn't matter what you've written down on pieces of paper.
It doesn't matter.
Like it really doesn't matter. It doesn't. It's just like, meh. Yeah. Oh.
I had an opportunity recently to hear from a friend who said that a friend of theirs had asked about me. I guess they saw one of my interviews, maybe the trigonometry one, or maybe they saw the podcast. I don't know. But they asked about me and they said, what does she think about the election? By the way, first of all, they said that I am crazy and that I seem to have gone from one extreme to another, which is not true. Anyone who knows me or who watches the show, and if you're living in reality, being a liberal, being a classical liberal, being a libertarian, being a centrist, even being a conservative, oh my goodness, is not extreme. You've been told that it's extreme because the Overton window has shifted to such a degree towards the extremity on the left that anything
using the word Overton window makes you alt-right crazy extreme person.
Right, that makes you extreme person. That anything has now, they call Dave Rubin alt-right. They call Dave Rubin far right. Mother Jones called him far right. That's insane. He's a classical liberal. It's not an extreme to push back against the extremity of social justice. There are some extremists who push back against it. There are actual alt-right, white supremacists, those kind of people who push back against it. I don't see very many of them in popular culture. I rarely stumble across anything those people. I think they're a small minority. But it is not extreme to be a liberal or to be a centrist or to be a libertarian or to be a conservative. It's not. So
anyone who uses the word extreme as in that context is just not a thinker. They're not a thinker. That's not a word that matters.
And but the other thing about this that was interesting was they asked, what does she think about the election? And I know why they asked that, because if you're in the extreme leftist cult, the echo chamber, if you're getting all of your news from legacy media, if you buy into the false narrative that they're selling you, then you look at someone like me and oh, well, she's a liberal who voted for Trump, and I wonder what she thinks about the election. And because here's what I think is happening there. I think it's because they were so hysterical and angry about Trump winning in 2016, so over the top, and spent 4 years doing everything they could to try and overturn the results of that election, and push this false Russiagate collusion narrative that proved to be false. And they spent so much time and effort doing everything they could to delegitimize that election. They couldn't stand it that he was the president. Then they look at people who voted for him and they assume everyone who voted for him must be just like them. And the reality is, I don't think a lot about the results of the election. I mean, I did in the days surrounding it, but do I believe that Biden legitimately won? No. That concept is so funny to me. Like, I just don't, it's such a big lie. It's what Hitler called the big lie. That you've got to tell a lie. If you're going to tell a lie to the people, it has to be big enough that they believe it. It can't be, because it has to be so big that that normal people look at it and say, you couldn't possibly tell a lie that big. And that's what I think it is. I think it's the big lie. I don't care about running down evidence or trying to challenge it or trying to overthrow it. I'm glad some people do, and some people are still focused on that. I don't care, though. I think the election, it's like either way, if Trump won or Biden won, we're still fighting the same things and we're still standing for the same things. And it would just be manifesting itself differently. Under Biden, it's accelerated, the social justice stuff. It's accelerated in the way that it's being codified into law. But in some ways, that might be better, because then it's becoming more obvious to normies. And so, I don't have I just don't have that desire that they had, that anger and that desire that they used to wake up with about Trump, about getting him out of office. And I think it's funny that they think we do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Because they're very obsessed with politics.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Ninth Circuit story is exactly why I don't want to be like, that's to me a great example of why I'm not obsessed with politics. Like, politics doesn't control. Like, if you can't have, you know, if your entire culture believes in liberty, you could have a monarchy. As long as the king also believes in liberty, like, it doesn't matter. You'd have liberty.
Yeah.
If the entire culture are a bunch of Marxist authoritarians, doesn't matter what perfect constitution you think you've written down and put on inscribed somewhere. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is the people. What the people, their viewpoint, their culture, how they live. That's what matters. What they think is right and wrong matters. That's what needs to be changed. We need to be better as humans, not better. Like, we don't need to learn how to write better political documents. We need to learn how to make better people.
Yeah.
That's what we need to learn how to do. Because people are what screw it up.
Yeah. And you know, one person, one politician, I mean,
Beverly, I did not steal the monarchy thing from you. That came from Moberg. What's his name? God, I always forget his name.
Anyway,
if someone in chat will say his name.
But anyway, I don't think that putting all your faith in politics or especially in one politician, I don't think that that's very wise, because one person, if Trump had won, and I do believe he won, but you know, if history had written it down that he won, I don't think it would have mattered very much in the long run, like in the very large picture. Would he have staved off some of this incursion from social justice into law? He might have staved, yeah, he would have staved some of it off, but it still would happen. It's still going to happen. They're still going to try and push this stuff in law. I mean, I saw, as a result of Biden overturning Trump's executive order about critical race theory, and, you know, then Biden issued his own executive order saying, we should, you know, let's definitely teach critical race theory. Let's definitely teach discrimination on the basis of race. And let's teach racist stereotypes. Let's do that, right? I saw this morning, there are hospitals now openly posting about and speaking about how they're going to start using racist practices in their treatment. They're going to start discriminating on the basis of race. And they even say they know it's illegal, but they feel like it's the right thing to do, and it's their duty, and that it's going to be protected because of Biden's executive order.
And the illegality won't matter if you get in front of courts that will refuse to, you know, if you don't have a prosecutor who will prosecute, if you don't have courts that will convict, it doesn't matter if it's illegal.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. That's why the culture around you matters so much, right?
And we have to change the culture. I mean, that's maybe, I don't know which outcome would have been better, Trump as president for 4 more years or Biden as president, but I'm choosing to think maybe there are some positives to it being Biden. And I don't mean positives in terms of him making the country better. Not at all. I mean, the opposite. He's making the country worse. But I think there might be some positives in speeding up this deterioration that we're in. You know, like those people who believe in collapsing it all faster so we can grow back.
Collapsitarians. Yeah.
Collapsitarians. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, there were things that I thought were good about Trump in his gut response to some of this. But Trump also was not an ideological heavyweight. Let's put it. Trump was not going to be the guy to carry the torch ideologically and explain to people what really makes America different and successful, and what really are the foundations of America, and how do we build a future based on those principles moving forward. That was never going to be Trump. Trump was a populist who was good at tapping into the population's feelings along those lines about what they felt America was about, and like they felt something was wrong. But and he was good at tapping into that, but he wasn't really good at explaining it to them, and he wasn't really good at explaining it to anyone else, and he wasn't really good at painting a vision for this is why these principles matter, and this is what we can do with these principles moving forward. But he at least cared about America, and I think a lot of people saw the difference between Trump and others as well. This guy actually cares about America, and everyone else seems to hate it. So, like, even if he fumbles around and doesn't do things right, he cares about America, and that's a step forward.
Right.
Than these globalists who are kind of just wanting to destroy it and wish we were part of the EU, which, you know, I'm not sound, you know, I may sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I think most of the Democratic Party wishes we were just part of the EU. They just want to destroy America's sovereignty. They just want to be part of a world government. That's what they want. And you know, I don't think a lot of them would say it openly, but I bet they would say it. And you know, that's what the Great Reset contemplates is basically increased, we'll say, increased unity at a global level, like government-wise, like, you know. And in fact, you saw Janet Yellen recently. I wanted to talk about this a while ago, but I never did. And I still have the link up for some reason in a browser. Janet Yellen was proposing. So, do you know who Janet Yellen is? Does everyone know?
Yeah.
Janet Yellen's the Treasury Secretary, and she was the former chairman of the Fed. I guess they say chair of the Fed now because
chairperson. Chairhuman.
She was she's the former Ottoman of the Federal Reserve, and now she is the Treasury Secretary, and she was pushing for a global minimum corporate tax. Right? This is the globalist agenda that you see, right? If you see someone from the Trump administration, even if they're misdirected, their viewpoint on things is, well, how do we make America better to attract people here? Like, how do we make America better, right? I mean, his freaking slogan was "Make America Great," right? Again, right? So, how do we make it better? Like, maybe we can have more competitive tax structures or whatever for companies to be here. We want people here, and we want productivity, and like we're going to compete against the rest of the world by, you know, again, not a principled guy, but recognizing that there's some practical things he could do to entice businesses here and whatever. But if you look how Yellen's looking at this, she's not looking at it that way. She's not thinking, how do we make America better? She's thinking like, how do we stop people from escaping our reach? We want the whole globe. We want control over the whole globe.
Yes.
And I don't like that people go to Ireland because the corporate taxes are cheaper. How do we fix that? Well, instead of competing so that we have lower taxes than Ireland, I guess what we have to do is get a whole bunch of people to sign treaties that will all agree we're all gonna have the same high minimum corporate tax, right? So there's no place for you to escape. They don't want the left is, and this is the argument against secession that people have made against me, and I think it's a valid argument, which is, the left doesn't want you to have your own enclave of freedom. They're not satisfied with controlling 90% of the world and giving you 10% in a little island somewhere. That's not good enough. They must have hegemonic control over the entire globe. And when we're on other planets, they'll include the other planets as well. The left is obsessed with controlling everything and everyone. They are the idea that there's a spot in the world that they don't control is like radioactive to them.
Yeah.
So that's how they approach it. Whereas if you saw Trump as unprincipled as he may have been, I don't think he gave a crap what some other country was going to do with it. Like,
no.
Oh, America doesn't have control over what Ireland's doing?
Yeah.
We're America. They're Ireland. I don't care. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the danger to people who love liberty and people who love individual rights and people who want to perhaps secede or perhaps create an enclave where there's freedom. Because if that happens, we will be attacked. I mean, we will have to defend ourselves at some point, because the rest of the world, all these authoritarians hate that. And the reason they hate it is it's demonstrably way better. Like, you can make principled arguments all day long, and people's eyes glaze over when you talk about individual rights, and people aren't really good thinkers, and they don't like to have philosophical conversations, and so they're, it's easy to not, just to convince them, well, no, we need minimum wage for this reason, and these crazy extremists over here talking about principles are dumb, and oh no, we have Harvard economists who say blah blah blah. Don't you can ignore them, blah blah blah. Right? It's easy for them to confuse average people, but when it's actually tried somewhere and it works, you can't dupe people anymore. They just look over the wall or the border and they're like, whoa, check it out over there.
Yeah.
It's like, things are much better. I'm moving. Like, that's what happens.
I mean, this happens.
So you can't let that exist.
Yeah, this happens on a small scale. I mean, a smaller scale, like even communities, in cities and states. Like, this is why there's an influx of people from California to Texas. There's such a huge influx, as we pointed out several times, that it costs, last I looked, it was 5 times as much to rent a U-Haul coming from California to Texas as it was to go the other way. Because they don't have enough people, 5 times, because they don't have enough people renting U-Hauls and going the other way and taking the U-Hauls back. There's so many people coming here from California. And why are they coming here? They're looking over the wall. They're looking at Texas. They're saying, wow, that looks much more affordable. I like what they're doing with their taxes. And I'm going to go there. But then a lot of them, not all of them, because I've talked to several wrong thinkers who are considering moving here, and I thoroughly invite you to come if you're a wrong thinker. But there are a lot of these brainwashed people who are awake enough to know that they need to escape California and are looking over the wall at other states, but then cluelessly, delusionally trying to take their voting habits and their ideology with them and ruin the place they're moving to.
Right. And that's why I think this is where I depart from a lot of, I'll say, the objectivist community and a lot of libertarian communities that argue, well, you can't really have borders. You can't stop people from coming in. Like, ideally, I kind of agree, like, quote, freedom of movement. Like, I kind of agree. The problem is people matter. And when they come in, when the Californians move to Texas with their California ideology, they will destroy Texas. That's what they will do. You can't, like, if you care about protecting a spot and making it a sanctuary for liberty, you need to control who the hell comes to that sanctuary for liberty. They have to be on board with the idea that it's a sanctuary for liberty. They can't come in and be like, yeah, I'm a commie, but taxes are really high in California, so I'm just going to bring my communism over to you. Is that cool? Like, no, that's a virus.
That's a virus. You're bringing a virus here. Yeah.
Yeah, locust. Text here said locust. I think I've used I've said locust before. I do think Californians are like
they're locusts.
Yeah, they go eat and they consume all the resources in one spot and then move on. Yeah.
Or in South Carolina, we had an invasion of kudzu. For anybody who knows what that plant is, they're like kudzu.
I don't know.
Kudzu's that it grows rapidly and it covers other vegetation, covers trees and stuff, and kills them off slowly over time by depriving them of sunlight.
I'm gonna look at kudzu now. Oh, it's an invasive species. Look at that.
Yes.
Oh, we have something similar here. It's not kudzu, but it's almost like a succulent, but it's all over the place. It just like takes over the ground if you let it.
Does it kill off? Does it kill off the?
Well, yeah, because nothing can grow underneath it. I mean, it blocks everything.
That's like the what's that bird? It's not native to America, although there's a ton of them here now. I think it might be the grackling that is killing off the bluebird because it has similar nests and climates to the bluebird, and it's been taking the bluebird's nests.
Oh, but they're good-looking birds. Look at the blue thing on the grackling, or grackle. Common grackle. It's not a bad looking bird. I prefer this.
Somebody says it's the starling.
Starlings are ugly. So never mind.
I think they might be right. Yeah.
All right. Well.
But we learned about that in ornithology.
I did not take ornithology and have. I think that's one of the subjects that I know the least about in anything. I think is birds. I know they fly mostly.
Yeah, it's the starling. They're
poop on people's cars.
They were brought to North America in the 19th century, but they, like bluebirds, they are secondary cavity nesters, meaning they do not excavate their own cavities. But yeah, they've been pushing. Anyway, Californians are the kudzu and the starlings of people.
and here's the thing. Unfortunately, it's not Californians, it's socialists.
That's true. It's not Californians. It's true.
We moved to California a long time ago and ruined California. California is just our latest field that the locusts have devoured, and we're almost done with the crops here, so we're going to pick up and move on to Texas. That's what we do. But don't worry, we do it in a smug, self-righteous way, lecturing you the entire time.
Yes.
You need to do what I think you should do because California listened to me and they're doing great.
Right. You need to give me your nest, Bluebird.
Go watch. It's going to sound horrible, but go watch the original Parent Trap with Haley Mills. Is that her name?
I love that movie. Yeah.
Her dad in that movie, he's in the Bay Area. I think it's the Bay Area. It's like either the Bay Area or LA, but it's like, it's what would now be a major city. Like her dad is right outside of a major, and he's got horses and like a ranch, and like it feels much different. There's like a freedom vibe to it. There's kind of a, they go out hiking, and there's kind of like a rugged individualism vibe to the dad's whole lifestyle. And the contrast that they make in the movie is between the dad and the mom, who's in Boston and kind of with her stuffy parents in this stuffy Boston, New England thing. I think it's Boston, whatever, some New England place. It's been a while since I watched this movie. But that contrast, that spirit of California was real. Like California was a little bit rugged individualism, kind of make it or break it. Like, you had the gold rush, but then you had the Silicon Valley rush where people just come here and try your dream out. And if you fail, you fail. Like it was not a bad place.
Yeah.
But
you can still find pockets of that too. But that's why.
Yeah, but we really ruined that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why that was the movie that made me think of it, but
I watched that movie so many times as a kid. I've got to
as a kid I watched it a lot too. That's why it's like
adult,
I think about it a lot because it's like, oh, that one.
We're aging ourselves.
Yeah, I was allowed to watch that. I was not allowed to watch a lot of movies, but that was a wholesome enough. I don't know why, because they were divorced, which is like also something that I was shielded from. My parents were very strict, so. But apparently, because they got back together, that was okay. I was allowed to watch it. I was allowed to watch it.
Did you ever? This is just frivolity question, but did you ever? There were certain times when we were sent to bed. You couldn't watch certain movies, and our couch was this old 70s couch with a wooden back that slanted away from the wall. And so you could crawl under there between the wall and the couch. So
we had a couch like that. There's like a little triangle in between. Yeah.
So I would slide myself into the triangle and watch a lot of movies I wasn't supposed to sideways through the slats.
Oh, you would hide.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I could not get away with that crap at my house. No. And in my parents' defense, they weren't hypocrites about it. They didn't watch TV at all, really. So there was no, there was nothing to sneak and watch. I remember as a kid, all my other friends would like find their dad's stash of Playboy magazines, and my dad didn't have a stash of Playboy.
Yeah, mine either.
I looked everywhere. Unless he was a master at hiding stuff, he just didn't, my teenage years, I had to go to my friend's house to raid his dad's stash of dirty magazines. It was the trauma I suffered. Someone in chat asked, if I had the power, would I ban welfare? Well, obviously. I mean, yeah, welfare is stealing money from some people and giving it to other. But I just want to be clear. I don't just mean welfare for poor people. I mean all welfare. I mean welfare for oil executives, welfare for Wall Street, welfare for the Defense Department. Well, I would ban all welfare. Yes, I would. And I think a lot of people on the right would hate me just as much as a lot of people on the left. And if you're hated by everyone, maybe you're doing something right. I don't know.
I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know if I would ban all welfare. I would have to think more about it, because I do generally still believe in having some kind of social safety net. I just think it's abused, it's overused, and you can't, and it actually is creating incentives for the wrong things. It's not incentivizing having a 2-parent household and a stable environment for kids. It's not incentivizing, trying to lift yourself out of poverty. It's incentivizing the wrong things. And so that's what's made I've started to rethink it and think, well, do you just have to do away with it altogether? How do you have a system? How do you have a social safety net that's government funded through taxpayer dollars that doesn't incentivize the wrong things? I don't know the answer to that yet. I'm still thinking about
well, it. I incidentally, I think the answer is you don't, which is why I wouldn't ban charity. But actually, that's not the reason why I don't care that it incentivizes the wrong things. I mean, I think that's a valid argument, and I think it's true. But I don't care. That's not why I would ban welfare. I would ban welfare because the money comes from people who didn't agree to give you their money.
Right.
It's
That's
theft.
right.
So I don't care. You could go cure cancer with that money. If it's obtained through theft, you can't steal it. Stop stealing my money. Stop stealing other people's money. Stop stealing money. Just because you don't carry the gun into my neighbor's house, but instead you hire an army and an IRS to go legitimize stealing my neighbor's money, doesn't make the stealing, you're not more moral. You just think you're more moral because you're not looking at what you're doing. It's like it's the same kind of people who eat meat. By the way, I eat meat. I love meat. But it's the same kind of people who are like, I eat meat, but I only if it's packaged in cellophane in the grocery store. I'm like, well, you're not helping animals that way. There's no, you just want a level of indirection to make yourself feel better. When I decided I needed to answer the question morally of whether I felt okay eating meat, I forced myself to go hunting. And I was like, well, if I feel okay killing an animal and eating it, then I'm morally, it's okay for me to go buy food, meat in the grocery store. Mm-hmm. But I'm basically a carnivore, not completely now, but I eat a lot of meat. But I guess my point is you don't have to do what I did. My point is you can't close your eyes to the chicken comes from somewhere. There was a chicken that was murdered, slaughtered, whatever word you want to use. There was a cow that was slaughtered to get the meat in the nice little, package with styrofoam and whatever to make it look nice. And if you refuse to, you can't say, well, I'm against that part of it, but I'll take it after it's gotten the cellophane wrapping. And that's how I feel about the welfare stuff. It's well, I get that you want to help people, but you can't ignore where the help comes from. You're well, in a magical world with infinite resources and magical fairy dust money going to the government, sure, I'm for welfare. Sure, give everyone money. Why not? But that's not reality. That's not where the money comes from. It doesn't come from magical fairy dust.
That's actually a very persuasive argument. I don't know. I'm still thinking this one over. I don't know if I'll come to a conclusion soon. But
I'm not trying to convince you right now. I'm just.
Oh, I know. I have to take a quick break, Carter. I'm sorry.
How dare you?
Can you maintain the show while I'm gone?
I don't know. I don't know if I can, but I will do my best.
3 minutes and 26 seconds. Okay.
We'll see, everyone. Can I maintain the show while Keri is gone? Who knows? Who knows? Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll talk about. There was an article I was going to go through. Actually, the article I was going to go through, which I won't because Keri would probably want to be part of this, but I'll show you it. This awesome article, if you're interested, by Barry Weiss a couple weeks ago, The Miseducation of America's Elites. She talks all about how these elite schools their parents are organizing in secret to because they're worried about this SJW indoctrination happening at these elite schools. Anyway, but I will talk about without Keri is the sign behind me right there. Right there. That says potential. Because I thought of this yesterday during book club discussion, and I don't know that it matters to everyone, but a lot of people they talk about whether someone is an optimist or a pessimist, and you guys have heard Keri and I talk about this on the show before, where some people are like, Carter's a pessimist, Keri's the optimist. Sometimes Keri says I'm a realist, and I think I don't think the fundamental question about people's psychology when it comes to like politics and that kind of stuff is whether they're an optimist or a pessimist. And this is a weakness of mine, by the way. It's also a strength, I think, but it's also a weakness. I think there's a difference between how people view humans in terms of whether they see potential in humanity and humans or they don't. And that's different from optimism or pessimism. My weakness is that I see a tremendous amount of potential in humans. That's why I do this show. And it's frustrating because we don't live up to that potential. And sometimes I feel pessimistic about whether we'll ever live up to that potential. Sometimes I can be a curmudgeon about it. But the reason that I'm curmudgeon-y about it is precisely because I view humans as possessing massive amounts of potential. And I look around and I see the wonderful things that humans can do. Art, Jackson Pollock aside, art, music, science, just like awesome tech, like cool things that humans can do that have made everyone else's life more tolerable, because ultimately nature is kind of harsh and kind of sucks. And if we had to live in nature naked in the middle of the forest, we would be pretty miserable and or dead. So I am a worshiper of that human potential. I think the human potential is something to be admired, and I think that doesn't necessarily make you an optimist, right? You can have days of optimism based on that, and you can be pessimistic about it sometimes too, because things aren't going in the way that they could, or there's all that. I mean, one of the biggest tragedies is like squandered or missed potential. It's this idea that like, all the stuff that we've missed out on or squandered, or like, when you think about the 100 million deaths that communism was responsible for last century, I don't just think about the tragedy of humans dying. Like, yes, that's sad. I also think about the potential lost, like all that human potential. We don't know what brilliant people could have been members of that, and brilliant in different ways. Like we could have had someone that could have cured cancer that was killed. We could have had a beautiful poet or a singer or an excellent artist, or like we could have had so much. So much was lost with those deaths, and those deaths were unnecessary. And that's what's frustrating, is to watch a species that I believe has immense potential destroy itself, turn on each other, squander that potential, shackle each other, run by a bunch of control freaks who are pissed off that someone's idea of potential is different than theirs, or they want to do something like that. And that makes me a realist. I'm neither optimistic nor pessimistic about our future. I don't know what will happen, but I know what can happen. I know we have potential to do incredible things and build incredible worlds. Whether we'll do that or not, I don't know. I want us to, which is why we're here having discussions about letting people live their lives and fulfill their potential. And anyway, that's the only that's a nuance that I wanted to make. There are also there's a class of people, I'll say class, but there's a group of people who have the opposite view about humanity, who think humans are inherently a scourge on the earth. They don't have potential. They're kind of all crappy. Yeah, and don't trust me, there's a lot of crappy humans, and we can all agree on that. But in terms of like their ultimate potential as beings, they kind of suck. And I think those people are the problem more than people who see potential in humans and argue about the best way to meet that. I think there's a lot of people who just and I think it stems from self-hatred probably, or some sort of personal psychology where they just don't like themselves. And they think humans are a problem. And you can see this split even in the environmentalist movement. A lot of environmentalists actually hate humans. They they don't view humans as having potential. They think humans are a virus on the planet, and they hate humans. And if that's what you believe, you literally should just go naked into the woods and die, because that's what you can do to contribute to your worldview in a positive way. You can get rid of the virus. But there are some environmentalist types, and I'm gonna use a guy that I don't think people would think of as an environmentalist, but Elon Musk is like, he totally is bought into the climate change like narrative. Like, he doesn't question the climate change narrative. Like, he agrees, but his solution is humans can do something about it. Humans are awesome, and we can do something about it. And like, I disagree with him on that kind of stuff, but you can sense the guy's potential, or the guy's view of humanity as having potential. We can go to Mars. We can build this. We can build that. We can do this. We can solve these problems. Like, he views it as a possible thing that humans can fix. And I think a lot of environmentalists are like, we can't. Humans suck. There needs to be fewer of us. Stop having babies. Stop infecting the world with humans. And that's the dangerous. I think that attitude is the danger. It's not optimism versus pessimism. It's seeing potential in humans versus seeing humans as some inherently bad thing, or some infection on the rest of the globe.
You can even see this. I agree, by the way. I do. I saw a lot of this messaging when I was in the social justice cult. Women in particular are in the social justice cult are discouraged from having kids. You're encouraged to look at people who have children as breeders.
Right. I remember you said they used that word, breeders.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, I remember every year around Mother's Day, there would be a lot of sort of anti-Mother's Day sentiment from some of my feminist friends, where they would share sort of their being upset about Mother's Day being celebrated. And
why? What's the problem? Oh, because you're not supposed to be a mom.
Because some women aren't mothers, Carter.
Yeah, well, it's called Mother's Day. You could have a non-Mother's Day if you want, I guess.
And because some men,
oh wait, is it some women are fathers? Is that
some women, that's probably part of those posts now. Some women are fathers. Some women aren't mothers, and also they would say it's triggering for people who had abusive mothers. Well, no, that's your problem. That's your fault if it's triggering. It wasn't triggering
all
for me.
Social justice is triggering for people who think rationally, but
yeah, it was. I never found people celebrating Mother's Day triggering. I think it's inspiring. I think it's celebrating what motherhood should be. That's the intention behind it. Anyway, but within the social justice world, there's this denigration of wanting to have pursuing, having kids, and there's also, you can see it with COVID. This idea that they don't actually care about human lives. I'm starting to believe this, because they will say things like, this was in a recent discussion, or disagreement I was having with someone. They'll say things like, well, look at the COVID death toll. You must get a forced vaccine. You must wear the mask, because if you don't care about all these people who died. And if you point out to them, and rightly so, that there's a much greater virus that's been spreading, much worse virus than COVID. And that virus is fear and manipulation and control of people. And we've been, it's Marxism. We've given up. Look at all that we've given up all of the freedoms that people are willing to give up. And for what? I'll go on the right. It's much worse than the COVID death toll. We have increasing suicide rates among children and teens. That's not because of COVID. That's because of the lockdown. And they don't care. We have increasing depression rates, anxiety rates, suicide rates, domestic abuse. We have families that their family business has been destroyed. Countless families whose businesses have been destroyed, who've lost their livelihood. And this is not just going to affect this young generation of kids. I mean, look at the psychology. Look at this new world we've ushered in, where children are afraid now. Children have anxiety.
The biggest problem isn't even, to me, it's not even the immediate impact. It's just the put on your long-term thinking cap, which I know you've done, Keri, which is like, we have an entire generation of people who will say yes when you're ordered to push people on boxcars. That's what we've got now. Yes. You've built your army of zombies. That's the scary thing. You're building an army of zombies.
Yeah. These kids today are growing up thinking masking is normal, and they're growing up being instilled with fear as if their fellow human is someone they should be afraid of and is dangerous. There are kids who have not just increased anxiety, but increased physical ramifications of anxiety because they're so afraid of catching this virus. They're so afraid. They don't want to take the mask off. They don't want to go to school. They don't want to. That's dangerous. And I'm tired of people saying that kids are resilient. I'm tired of, you know what? Kids, it's funny that they try and say kids are resilient, because guess what they are resilient to? COVID. They're extremely resilient to COVID. Mm-hmm. But you know what they're not as resilient to? The psychological warfare we're doing on them, where we're telling them that the world is that their fellow man is dangerous. The world's a dangerous place. They need to wear a mask. They can't go to school. They can't interact with other kids. We're damaging these kids. And like you said, it's not just that generation. It's going to be future generations. So the COVID death toll is terrible. But you know what's worse? The lockdown toll, the psychological impact of what we've done, of what we've allowed, the freedoms we've given up. They are now
the precedents we have set.
The precedents we've set
way more deadly.
It's insane. Yeah. There are people, scientists, lawyers, government officials who are now pushing this idea of a vaccine passport. That's absurd. This is a virus with over 90% survival rate. And they're pushing it as normal that you should have a social credit score, basically, where you have to get a vaccine, an experimental vaccine. This vaccine hasn't even had a year's worth of trials. And they're trying to say it should be mandatory, and simultaneously saying, hey, it won't stop you from actually getting the virus. And also, it won't stop you from spreading it. I just saw that article today. It won't stop you from spreading it. It won't stop you from getting it. But, you should get it anyway. But you're still going to have to socially distance and mask. But you should get the vaccine, even though it hasn't had more than a year of trials. You should be forced to get this to interact in society. And they're saying this is a good thing. You guys, we've created an episode of Black Mirror. We're living in an episode of Black Mirror. And they're telling us this is normal. This is going to forever change things. And what we're willing. And I see people just rolling over, willing to, yes, take away our freedoms. Take them away. We don't want to be able to travel without the mark, without the vaccine. We don't want to be able to participate and go to work and, take away our freedom. Here, have it. That's sick. What we're doing is sick. It's not normal. It's a sickness. And so I'm getting a little off tangent, but I see it with the COVID stuff because they want to claim they care about people, that they care about the COVID death toll, but they don't demonstrate that they care about people at all. They don't care at all about the child suicide rates.
People who care about people don't push Marxism.
Yes. People who care about people don't push authoritarianism and tyranny. They're deceitful. They're deceitful. I think deep down, they, like you said, they have a deep hatred for humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they use the death toll. Why? Because they know we do care about people. And like you said, they use arguments that don't really mean anything to them. And that's why their arguments contradict one another. And they'll be saying a private business can do what it wants when it comes to censorship. And then they'll say a private businesses can't decide not to bake a cake for a gay wedding. They must bake the cake. they'll contradict themselves completely, and it doesn't matter to them because they're only using the argument because they think it will work on you, because you do care about that, because you are internally principled, because you do care about death and the death, COVID death toll. They'll use that on you, but they don't care.
They do not. So, and the vaccine that we missed out on that we needed was the vaccine against collectivism.
Yes.
And the reason that we're in the situation we're in, I mean, try doing this in 1800 and see how well that goes. Right? See how well the founding generations respond to government edicts to shut down your business.
And to inject yourself.
Try that, right? It wouldn't have worked. But, they pushed a much more
They're doing the same thing
virulent poison.
They're doing the same thing with guns.
Ideology, yeah.
I mean, they're doing the same thing with guns. They're getting all these people to say, here, take away our freedoms. Take away our right to bear arms. And they're not, this is the other thing somebody was saying to me, it's so weird that they're pushing these things because they're anti-cop and they're anti-gun. And I was like, no, they're not anti-cop. They're not anti-gun. They just want to control the cops. They want to control the guns. They want to disarm the population. They want to disarm the population and have the control of the only gun left in the room. They want control of the guns. They're authoritarians. They don't dislike guns.
Well,
they don't care about people.
No statist is against guns, no matter how much they flap their lips, because without guns, the state doesn't exist. We don't listen to you. You don't pay. Look, no one here would pay their taxes if men with guns didn't have a right to come to your house and do something to you. If you don't, you wouldn't pay them. If there was no, why would you pay? Why would you pay your taxes? You wouldn't pay taxes if all they could do was send you harshly worded letters, and they couldn't do anything but scold you. Shame, shame, shame. All right, shame me all you want. I'm keeping my money. You wouldn't pay your taxes. You pay your taxes because eventually someone will arrest you.
Right.
That's why you pay your taxes.
Yeah.
And that person has a gun. And if they didn't, it will be very difficult to arrest you if you had firearms and they didn't. That's how this works. The government it's just like the feminists say that we don't need men, and then they literally rely on an army of men to implement all of their legislative goodies that they want. We don't need no stinking men at all, except for the entire army and police force, please, to implement all of the legislation that we've just asked for. Could you force people to do that? But other than that, we're independent. We don't need men. All right. Lady.
It's like in Canada. All of these laws are enforced at the end of a gun. The father that they've now jailed for referring to his daughter as she.
Right.
That father is in jail. Why? They push their ideology at the end of a gun. That's why they want to codify this stuff into law, so they can have a guy with a gun take you to jail. Lisa, who's the woman we interviewed in Minnesota,
Lisa.
Yeah, they put what's her last name? I'm blanking.
I want to say Harmon, but I'm not sure if that's right.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Okay. Why did they arrest her? Why did they put out the arrest warrant? Because she dared to operate her small business, which is constitutionally protected in the 4th and 5th Amendment. But they don't care about the Constitution. As you said, they don't care. Lisa Hansen.
That was close.
If you guys haven't seen that interview, look that up. This is a really brave grandmother, who's now an enemy of the state, because at some point she and her husband had to decide, do we continue to follow this governor's edict, this unconstitutional executive order, or do we say we're going to either lose our business if we continue to do that, or we're going to have to open up? And they opened up. And now she's being persecuted for trying to earn a living with a business that you can voluntarily choose to come to or not, if you believed in personal responsibility. There's no
With
one
guns,
with
by the
a
way.
gun. There's no one with a gun forcing you. If you think going to a restaurant that's open during COVID, if you think going to a cafe is dangerous for your health, there's nobody with a gun forcing you to do it. Yet, you want people with guns to make sure that nobody else can make the choice whether they get to go to a restaurant or not. You want people with guns to take people like Lisa Harmon to jail. Yeah, that's an authoritarian. You're an authoritarian. There's a lot of you who think that you're liberals, and you're not. Anyway, okay,
Yeah.
a little bit of a tangent, but
No. I mean, all good stuff. I don't know. I guess there's a couple other things we could talk about, Keri, but I'm kind of feeling like it's been a pretty long show. If there's anything else in chat that chatters want us to talk about, we should do that and call it a day. Sorry we can't do super chats. It's because we're on this other channel. And they have. So, by the way, one of the ways that YouTube, just a little behind the scenes stuff, one of the things that I see you, Pirate Tomsky. One of the things that YouTube does is they don't have to have reasons for things if they pretend that there's a process, but the process is arbitrarily and infinitely slow. So, for example, this channel has met all the monetization requirements, but we're in review. We've been in review for months. I'm on the Clips channel. We're just sitting in review because they're reviewing, right? And our main channel, we shouldn't actually be in jail, even if you accept this latest violation, which obviously we disagree with, but we shouldn't actually be in suspension because it shouldn't be a strike because we shouldn't have a warning. Our warning is probably 6 or 8 months old at this point. It's
they still haven't resolved that?
It's in review. It's been in review. They've never communicated to us. So what they do is they say, well, if we make a mistake, there's a review process and we can remove the thing. Yeah, there is, but it's an infinite review process. So the warning that shouldn't be there is stacked for eternity, i.e., it's a warning that will never go away. There is no review process.
It sounds like the review process at Twitter, because we've been banned from Twitter since January 11th, and we've appealed. And what's happening with that?
Actually, I don't know. I haven't seen them. I don't think they've talked to me lately. Let me look. I'm just searching my email. No, they just haven't responded.
You just stay in review.
Yeah, there's just no. If I go to our Twitter, it still says, "Hey, you're banned. Your account's suspended," but they don't. No reason. Doesn't matter. We're reviewing. Don't worry, we'll review.
Indefinitely.
We'll get around to it. Hey, after we've won the culture war, we'll get around to it.
We'll get around to it
when it's over.
By the way, speaking of Twitter and the way they arbitrarily enforce their TOS and they use it selectively to ban and censor certain people. Our friend Cameron Pasha was banned from Twitter, and they said that when they finally gave him an answer, they said it was for spam. And I forget what the other thing was, spam and bot stuff or whatever, which I think, he's appealed and is probably also in limbo, never to hear.
Sure. They're reviewing, Keri.
But as I was reading that music video that we looked at the top, as I was reading about Lil Nas X and trying to get the history on where he came from and stuff, he used to operate before he had his song, his first hit song. He was a fan of Nicki Minaj, and he operated several Nicki Minaj Twitter accounts, fan accounts. And he also used these accounts and engaged in spamming and having multiple accounts to boost his own content. And they ended up banning some of his spam accounts back before he, quote, became somebody. And now that he is somebody, his profile is allowed to stay up on Twitter. He's doing the things that we've all been accused of. He actually has created multiple accounts to evade a banning. He actually has engaged in spamming, which they admit openly, spamming and manipulation to push up posts. And he's on Twitter.
Well, maybe, Keri, if you went and gave the devil a lap dance, we would get our contact.
We could get our channel back? Is that the price we have to pay?
Yeah. I'm sorry, but it's going to have to be you. And
I'm fine without the channel.
I'll sell blood shoes. You do the
lap
devil
dance,
lap
the
dancing.
devil.
Will be good.
Yeah. It's literally, I mean, that's figuratively also what he's doing, lap dancing the devil. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's anything else super exciting we have to cover in chat. But this has been a fun show.
Yeah,
hopefully we'll be back on Friday on our real channel. We should call what? Channel.
We have some good interviews coming out soon too. We should call this episode "Lap Dancing the Devil," or put your blank in my blank.
Put your blank in my blank. Either one of those I'm down with. So I like fun. I actually like fun titles. Keri's usually smarter about SEO on titles, and I'm like, can we just call it bleh, like some stupid thing? And she's like, no one will know what the hell that means. But now she's got a good idea for. You're down with the blank. Put your blank in my blank or whatever.
I'm blank in my blank, and I'll do my blank, and you do blank.
All right. Well, on that note, Keri, and everyone, join us again. We will be back. I think we'll be back on our main channel on Friday, although, it's YouTube, so who the hell knows. But I think on Friday we'll be back on our main channel. If not, we'll be here. And like I said, stuff will be on library. If you're interested in the retreat, go to unsafespace.com. Not much left there, but yeah, let us know. And I think that's all. Am I forgetting anything?
No, I'm very excited about the retreat, guys. August.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah, it should be good.
There'll be no lap dancing the devil at the retreat.
Speak for yourself. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, we have a deep content library that includes interviews with everyone from Mike Cernovich to Megan Murphy, so go check it out. If you'd like to see more, please consider supporting the show by visiting unsafespace.com/donate. You can find us on all the major social media platforms, at least for now, and you can find a community of like-minded individuals on our Unsafe Space chat on Telegram. See you there.
Warning. This is an unsafe space. Dangerous ideas have been detected. The content of this production has not been authorized by the Cathedral. Pay no attention to it. The following co-conspirators have been unpersoned and marked for cancellation. For your own safety, and to avoid further spread of contagion, if you have been in recent contact with any of these individuals, please report to your nearest Good Citizen Treatment Center immediately. If you think about it, no one should be allowed to express opinions. But don't. Think about it, I mean. That's not your job. Thinking has been scientifically proven to be less efficient than compliance. Remember, your uninformed opinion matters. We couldn't destroy everything and rebuild utopia without it. Computer voice Curtis, never mind, that last line is fake news. Please disregard it and return to your safe space immediately. There will be cake.